Welcome to the J.R. Hendrick Texan Concert. Texan Night, the podcast that deals with the early life of yours truly. 4 a.m. Central. J.R. wakes up and goes straight to his closed-circuit television for the blind to study his government textbook. An hour ahead, his father in Washington, D.C. is working out in his home basement, lifting weights and the like. No, doing cardio. 5 a.m. JR is doing an endurance swim with the whole team. Coach was leaning on them hard to win the invitational with Iowa State. And he announced at the beginning of practice that JR's Uncle Carl would be going with them. (7 a.m.) JR is having breakfast at Chick-fil-A with his cousin Joe. They're both having a hash brown burrito. Scrambled hash brown burrito. And discussing Cheesecake Toastmasters meetings. You know, I'm looking forward to taking Jennifer Bowers to Grandma's tonight, JR said. And then I'm taking her with me to the Cheesecake Toastmasters meeting. I'll be there for you. I already got those posters posted for you for Student Senate. Thank you, cousin, JR said. Cousin, I love you. Well, yeah, you're pretty excellent. You know, that Bethany I've been keeping an eye on, she's going with me to the meeting tonight. You mean the classic cheerleader? Yeah, JR, I'm in love with that cheerleader. All right, but be sure to be there on time, JR said. You're introducing my speech and evaluating me. 'Cause I wouldn't miss your speech for the world. Someone brings in their tray of food to their table. Suddenly, Grandma Elizabeth walks over to their table. Care if I sit here? She asked. Grandma, I thought you weren't supposed to eat before your chemo. Well, it's the day after chemo, and they were wrong. I'm ordering me a breakfast chicken sandwich. Okay, awesome, JR said. You know, Uncle Carl is going with me to the Iowa State Invitational. I want him to keep an eye on you, Elizabeth said. You know, your grandma's pretty awesome. Grandma Elizabeth, I'll also make sure to keep an eye on her. That'll be fine, JR said. Meanwhile, the waitress brings Elizabeth her food. Elizabeth is on the phone. Is on her cell phone. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's here. He's here with me at Chick-fil-A. Him and his cousin Joe. You can come up and see him if you want. I tell you what. Sometimes, JR, you sound just like your father. Hey, man, watch it. All right, look, I'm sorry I said what I said. But seriously, Dad and I agree that your Uncle Carl is a lot easier to get along with than your dad. No doubt, JR said. All right, I'm looking for Carl to walk right through this door. Suddenly, Uncle Carl walks in. Good morning, Cousin Carl. JR, I heard about what your dad did. It was wrong, I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay. You're going to that swim meet with me in Iowa State. You be sure to keep an eye on him, Elizabeth said. After what his daddy pulled this past weekend, I'm ashamed. Well, you know, I'm going to be there too, Grandma Elizabeth. He's got, I got the double somersault. Coach needs an extra diver. With Carl there, it's going to be awesome. Thank you, Joe. Welcome, Carl. Joe says as he sits down. You know, Dad's been right about you. And thank you for coming. Well, you guys are family. You better believe the family. And we're going to be sitting up front watching JR win the 100 freestyle. Look, guys, I'm sorry. I've got to go to my government exam. An hour ahead, Jim is meeting with his assistant directors, getting ready for ideas for the beginning of the 1995 fiscal year. "8 a.m. Central. JR is in West Hall taking his government exam. At the same time, an hour ahead, JR's father is making the charter jet flight arrangements to go to Miami tomorrow for a major hearing. 10:30 a.m. Eastern. As JR is in geology class, his father is reciting his speech that he's going to be making at the major hearing in Miami tomorrow. He was already taking the 6:45 a.m. Charter jet flight from Washington, D.C. to Miami. And after the hearing, he would take the 3:45 a.m. flight home. 3:45 p.m. flight home. 11 a.m. No, 10:20 a.m. JR is relieved that geology let off early. But just as he walks out, he gets accosted by Brad. You know, your satchel looks disorganized and pathetic. Why are you starting on me like that every time, Brad? JR said. Had enough tough day as it is to find out what's on the test in geology. And you gotta come over and start it on me? Sorry, dude, I'm just trying to help you. Well, thanks for that. I'm not going to the home group this Thursday. And I'm not sure I'm even coming next week with your attitude, JR said, walking off towards his dorm. Kevin McDonald stops Brad. How many times have I told you that when you're going to be like this, you need to leave JR alone? Look, I'm just trying to help him shape up his life. Get organized. You're being fair warned, Kevin McDonald said. Back off on JR. Or this time, I swear. Cousin Joe, JR's cousin Joe and I are going to put on you a can of whoop-ass. "5 p.m. Central. JR is having Texas burger at the Hendrick family condo with Jennifer and Grandma Elizabeth. Mrs. Bowers, Elizabeth said, Junior has told me so much about you. Good, I hope, Jennifer said. Oh, yes. You're a heck of a lot better than some of his friends he's been hanging out with lately. Especially that awful Brad. Stopping and getting on to JR on his way back from school. I've seen he's done it again, JR, Jennifer says. Look, you'd be smart to stay away from Brad. 6 p.m. At the School of Mass Communications, the Cheesecake Toastmasters is in full swing. At least 20 or more people are at the meeting, and JR delivers a stellar speech, with Cousin Joe introducing and evaluating him. Also, speaking was Alan J. Lehrer. Lehrer was born and raised in Purcellville, Virginia, but his family moved to West Texas for a time. Actually, he went to live with his Uncle Trevor in Odessa to go to Reese Prep School, even though he and JR never met. Now, hope y'all enjoyed the episode of J.R. Hendrick Texan Night. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and become a part of the adventure. It's J.R. Hendrick saying until next time, take care and get ready to enjoy the rest of the story. God bless y'all.